I think they should be, there need to be more checks and balances, and this demonstrates where the real problem is. Again, some government bureaucrats making it more difficult instead of saying, we welcome all. Any way you get it to us, I don't care if you send a carrier pigeon, if it gets there with the right information, they'll all be able to be submitted.
This question was submitted for Mr. Rice. Most of you on the panel today have said that you've been against federal regulations. The United States is home to about 104 nuclear power plants. One of those is just north of Clarksville, and it is also one of the oldest in the nation. Recently, we've had some issues concerning that power plant that some say is for lack of proper regulation. Tell us your viewpoints on when government regulation can be beneficial.
Well, obviously, reasonable regulation to protect the public is in many areas. But energy is also vital to this country. And I think we have to pursue all of the above energy policy. We are at a point where we're dependent on our enemies. We're buying oil from Iran and Hugo Chavez rather than building pipelines from our friends in Canada. I think Mr. Obama's policy is none of the above policy. I think he wants us all hydrocarbons at any cost. When we talk about drilling, we say, well, gosh, it will not, we don't need to do it because it won't lower gas prices within the foreseeable future. Well, guess what? If we never get started, it will never lower gas prices. This country was built on reliable, affordable energy. We need to pursue every means at our disposal. Protecting public safety to keep that energy flowing. Thank you.
My question is for Councilman Wallace. And Councilman, you have ties to the PD, but you've served on the Myrtle Beach City Council for the past 10 years. If you're elected to office, wouldn't it be tough for you to separate in your head who you're fighting for up there after having such a vested interest in fighting for tourism, fighting for all the things that are important to the Grand Strand, when the PD has so many issues that are really not the same as the ones that we're facing on the Grand Strand?
I think what you do is you try to do as best you can to make everything as much a priority as it can be. One of the reasons that I worked so hard and was the only candidate on the stage that was with the parties when we were up there fighting to get this district drawn this way is because I care about Myrtle Beach and Georgetown, but I also care about the PD region. Like I said, in my little 30-second deal, I've seen how hard my grandparents worked. My granddad Grant farmed and worked at Sunoco for 40 years, and my grandfather King worked at Sunoco for 40 years, and he farmed. My grandmother, Hattie King, ran a little general store. I've seen her, give credit to people who couldn't afford to pay right there in Kellytown. I want to see this district lift up and be able to compete across the board in a world, in a global economy. We've got to do that by sending somebody over here who understands just how diverse the needs are of this whole region, who's going to work to build I-73, not only to get tourists in and out of Myrtle Beach, to bring jobs to Marlboro and Dillon and Chesterfield and Darlington counties, and understands that the diversity of the needs that we have, so that we, as a region, when I leave, if I'm lucky enough to be your congressman, I can look back and say, I did what I could to get this district competitive on a global scale. And that's the reason why I was there working, and the reason why, if you elect me, I'll be there every day on your behalf. And one other thing that I can tell you is that one of the main jobs, I think, of any congressman is answering the needs of the people who come to him for help. And I can tell you this, you've asked the people who I've represented in Myrtle Beach, and they'll tell you, when you call Randall Wallace, he jumps on with your problem and gets it fixed. And as your congressman, whether you are in Bennettsville or Timmonsville or Florence or Georgetown or Ainer or Loris or Myrtle Beach, this is a congressman that's going to be over there fighting to do whatever he can to help you and solve whatever problem you've got with the federal government. I want to lift this district up, and I want to take care of the people who live here. And that's why I fought so hard to see to it that it was a PD-oriented Georgetown district.
Mr. Bauer, Mr. Jordan, in high school I passed a note one time and the teacher made me read that note aloud. So my
He-
question,
I asked him to say something nice about it. I'm trying to lighten it up.
I can't think of anything right this minute.
my question would be for Mr. Bauer. Mr. Bauer, you're by far the most tenured politician of the bunch. You served several years at all different levels. And so, having served those years in front of the media and with a microphone on, mistakes have happened. Can you tell us one thing that you wish you hadn't done, hadn't said, or hadn't happened in your career?
Which year?
How it's made you, how that learning experience has made you stronger as a politician?
Absolutely, it's made me stronger. I mean, the state got to see me grow up. Quite frankly, I got elected at the age of 26. I had all cameras on me from 26 to 42. Imagine the mistakes you made during that time. Yes, I got pulled for speeding. I regret it. I wish it never happened. But that's part of politics. Let me tell you what really is sad about politics, what another Republican did. That happened 8 months before that. But the power of knowing somebody in government, where you were able to get that tape and hold it till the week of announcement. That's what politics is really. It wasn't that it was news when it happened. It was news the week of filing. So, I wish I could go back in there. I spent 6 long years doing everything I could in a part-time job fighting for seniors. And it's sad, but part of my legacy will be that I got pulled for speeding and not the fights that I engaged in and the heart and soul that I put in for the 3 grandparents who were living the entire time I was lieutenant governor, and I lost them right at the end. And I did every day what I could to make seniors a little bit better off. So I regret it. Yeah, and I hate it every day. It's part of politics. It's part of growing and learning. And so I think I'm better off for it. I think I have a lot more resiliency, a lot more fight. But I like to go back and think of all the good we did, even when I fought my own party. Many times over, I think back to a vote I took in the General Assembly and got pounded for it. When I voted, I was the sole Republican to vote against giving the Speaker the power to pick committee chairman. I thought it ought to be within somebody like me to have the opportunity to run for chairman of a standing committee, not the one person where you can check your brains at the door and expect somebody else to make those decisions. So I've been somebody that bucked the system all my life, and when you do that, you're going to bring on some opposition from a lot of different people.
Okay, we'll have a little fun now. What is black and brown and looks good on a Democrat? A Rottweiler. That's my joke. I'm going to allow them to tell one joke. I think it's important that people have a little sense of humor, and we'll end it tonight with that. If my folks who helped with this will come over to the edge over here, we'll get a picture in a minute. But everybody stay still and listen. This ought to be fun. Who wants to start? Uh-oh. You got one, Tom? Come on, let's hear it.
All right, I got a joke. God came back to the modern day Noah. He said, I want you to build me an ark. The world's going the wrong way. We're going to flood it again in 6 months. So you don't have a whole lot of time. You need to get busy. God came back 6 months later. Noah was sitting on his back porch with his head in his hands. God says, where's my ark? He said, well, God, I tried. He said, but the first thing, when I started construction in my backyard, FEMA came along and said I couldn't build an ark in a flood zone. Then OSHA came along and said I had to put a sprinkler system in the ark. Held up my permit for 2 more months. Then when I started cutting the wood, the EPA came along and said, you're going to mess with the spotted owl. I said, I'm trying to save the spotted owl. So, the skies had been getting cloudy, it started to clear. And Noah said, God, I thought you were going to flood the earth and destroy it. He said, no, the federal government's beat me to it.